and it's about breadcrumbing.
All right, so let's talk about breadcrumbing. Breadcrumbing is when someone keeps you on the hook, but they have no real intention of anything more with you. They enjoy flirting with you, hooking up with you, and they want to maintain that non-committal status without anything more, and with just bare minimum effort. They give you bits of crumbs, little indications here and there that they're interested in you, to keep you on the hook. And in real life, this looks like someone who just does everything they can to make you feel wanted, but not too wanted. And that's very intentional, of course. They want to keep you interested, but they don't want you 100% in, because then they'd have to deal with that. They want to deal with you on their own schedule and on their own terms. They want you eager for more, because that's the power dynamic that serves them. And so they intentionally keep things unsure, uneven, and inconsistent. They'll go from no planning and no communication to all of a sudden really wanting to make plans and hang out. Someone who breadcrumbs is intentionally manipulating.
Okay, let me just interject here. He's being much too kind when he says breadcrumber. Let's call it what it is, a prick teaser. This term breadcrumbing, that makes it sound like it's like some fairy tale out of Hansel and Gretel. Where they left behind breadcrumbs or something in the forest to try to find their way out. This is not that type of breadcrumbing. This is leading a guy on and prick teasing. So let's continue. Hold on.
Manipulating you for their own gain, because they want fun, they want something that really only serves them, they want you on their own terms and nothing more. They give you just enough to keep you on the hook. And the reality is, it works. This really works, but it's not because you're a sucker or you're naive. It's not that. It works because no one is immune to wanting to see something progress forward and become more. And those little breadcrumbs they give you fuel that natural human desire. So what do we do with this insight? Well, for starters, there should be no creating a negative or wallowing story from it. There should be no telling yourself or telling someone else that everything is messed up, no one is honest. There should be no saying, our generation has ruined dating and millennials have brought about the death of everything and dating apps have ruined romance. A story like that does nothing. Repeating a story like that does nothing more than...
Now let me disagree with him here. 50, 40, 30 years ago, I would have agreed with him that it's just sort of an isolated thing. But since the majority of women are doing this, unfortunately, this is reality for most guys. Seriously. When you got 75% of the women doing this, it's bad. Like, when I was in high school in the 70s, literally maybe 5% of the women did it, but no, nobody did it. They didn't have any reason to. First of all, they couldn't do it because they didn't have all the cell phones and social media. They were forced to deal with one guy at a time. I'm telling you, they didn't have even pagers where they could be reached. If a woman was away from her house, somebody would have to call the house and leave a message on the answering machine, and she wouldn't get it until she got home. Or maybe if she went to a payphone, she could call up for somebody's house and trigger the answering machine. But nobody ever did that. Once you're gone, you're gone. So women didn't have all these options with guys, kissing their asses and telling them how great they are 24/7, no matter where they are. Let's continue with what this guy has to say.
And put you in a negative headspace and freezes you in time and makes you overthink dating and what's possible. The appropriate response is never to focus on them, but rather to focus on yourself. It's to get serious about yourself.
Okay, let's expound on that. Terry Joel agrees with me. It's not to focus on yourself, and it's not to focus on the breadcrumbing attention hoe prick tease. Basically, the only way to get out of this is you have 4, 5, 6 different women you're talking to, and maybe banging a couple of them. None of them are your real serious girlfriend. So when you have 4 or 5 women, and one of them breadcrumbs you, who gives a fuck? You just drop her ass like a fucking fly and move on. So, in other words, when you're playing the field and you've got a harem of 4 or 5 chicks and one decides to breadcrumb you, just literally ghost them. In that case, just ghost them. If they're playing games with you, never talk to them again. And, now you're down to 4 in your bullpen and you get another one and you're back up to 5. So there's no need. The only guys that have to put up with breadcrumbing are the ones with scarcity mindset who are dealing with one chick and have one-itis. So don't listen to him. He knows about breadcrumbing, but the way out of breadcrumbing is to have multiple women you're talking to and even fucking. This way, you eliminate breadcrumbing.
There's no time to complain about dating. There's no time to say no one is serious. There's no time to focus on them and what they did and how they're a bad person. There's none of that. Conserve your energy. Say, I deserve more than some.
Well, see, he's saying conserve your energy. I deserve something more. I've got self-respect. Fuck all that. Just bypass all that. You don't have to do those mental gymnastic, guys. If you got 4 or 5 other chicks on the hook that you're seeing, one breadcrumbs you, and you're just out of there. Doesn't even matter. Like any red flag. Wait, if I'm dating 4 or 5 chicks and seeing them, and one decides to string me along, bye. Thanks. You just eliminated yourself. So in other words, the moral here is it's not even about self-respect. I mean, obviously it is. It's just having enough self-respect to basically deal with a bunch of women until one of them proves she's worthy enough to be your girlfriend. Let's listen to the simp.
Someone who would play with my feelings. And that's that. There should be no ambiguity about that because you are serious and you are honest and you wouldn't do those things.
Exactly.
You wouldn't breadcrumb someone else.
No.
And you deserve someone who is the same. And you better believe that those people exist because they do. So do not give more of your energy to the BS you've already been through, you've already experienced.
Right.
All you need to do is compare your intentions with theirs and just be done with what you see.
Exactly.
Just be done. Because in the case of breadcrumbing, all it leads to, in the best case, is a situationship or an almost relationship, and you don't want that, right? So take a step back and get fired up and say breadcrumbs.
No, he said the best case, that's what it leads to. He didn't mention the worst case. The worst case is you get prick teased and you never insert your penis in her vajayjay and you don't fuck her and she's breadcrumbing you because she's fucking some other Chad or 1 or 2 other Chads. Notice how he doesn't mention that? Think about it. Let's see if he mentions that.
You're going to try to tempt me with breadcrumbs? You've got to be kidding. I deserve the whole thing or nothing. That should be your response. Not, oh, everyone sucks, no one's serious, dating is impossible, none of that. You don't have time for that. You're too amazing to give your energy to a story like that. You love yourself, right? You know your intention. You know you are dating with honesty. And you know that someone who intentionally manipulates is a sad person. And they are not you. Compare that person to you. They are not.
Now, see, he's partly right, partly not right. We're going to end it here, though. I don't want to listen to this bullshit. Basically, what he's saying is compare that person to you. Would you do that to somebody? No. Are you sincere? Yes. But what he's failing to mention is he's not giving you away. He's just telling you who and what you are and how you should handle it. In that regard, self-reflection, realize you're, a real man. You got self-respect. But he's not giving you the key to the kingdom like Terry Joel and I are. To avoid all this, you just sit there and date 4 or 5 women and you're in the talking or fucking stage with 4 or 5 women at all time until you get serious with one. Then if one breadcrumbs you, it doesn't even mean anything. 1 down, 4 left, I'll pick up another one. It's got no meaning. And if you let these broads know you're dating other women, there's less likelihood you're going to breadcrumb you anyway. All right, maybe I'll listen to this simp later on. But that's the story. And it was aimed for Deborah K. and all you prick teasers out there. See, this simp, he's got it half right. Like, he knows what breadcrumbing is. He can tell you how it occurs and all this shit and why it occurs. But he doesn't give you a solid answer because he's a pussy, and tell you like Terry Joel and I and say the best way to combat this is to have 4 or 5 chicks you're dealing with. This way, you're not wrapped up in your feelings. You got your feelings spread out with 5 chicks, not just 1. So if one breadcrumbs you, fine. 1 down, who cares? I got 4 left. In fact, it's even better that way. Now it's like a screening process and she screened herself out. This little dude's half a fagala. That's Yiddish for you know what. So I don't take his word for shit, but he just knows enough about the basics of it, but a pussy like this would never recommend what Terry Joel and I would say. Date 5 chicks, bang 5 chicks, bang 3 chicks. Even though these chicks are doing that to us with guys. This is a simp. This is a guy who gets one-itis. So he's partly right, but mostly wrong.